Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you the basic functionality of Adobe Photoshop's Camera Raw. So first, I'm going to find a photo that I want to edit and open it up. So when I take photos, I take them in both RAW and JPEG just for fun, just in case I want to use a JPEG or if I want to actually edit the photo in Camera Raw. So notice when I click the raw file, the .cr2, it automatically opens up Photoshop and opens up Camera Raw. Okay, so we have the image here, and on the side we have a bunch of controls, basic controls for editing. Have a bunch of different tabs here. Right up here it shows us all the information at the shutter speed, the ISO, the f-stop, and the lens length. Up top we got a bunch more tools that I'll be getting into a little bit. And first, I'm going to straighten the photo. Right, click it. If you double click, it automatically straightens it. Then you just hit enter, and it will crop it for you. And that gets it to right about where you want it. You can play with it a little bit more if you want. Right now, I'm just going to leave it that way. Now, the photo is really dark, so I'm going to brighten up that exposure a bit. And just bring down the highlights quite a bit. They were clipping a little bit. And the shadows, I want to be completely black, so I'm just going to bring them down. And this is why I love Camera Raw, because you can literally change everything about the photo. The temperature, you can play with it. If you took a picture in the wrong color temperature, you can change the color temperature here, and it doesn't really affect the quality of the photo itself. So this is clarity. Clarity is a great tool. Basically sharpens your image, gives it a little bit more contrast, and makes the colors pop a little bit more. Vibrance is the amount of light in the color. So like if you bring the vibrance up, it makes the colors brighter. If you bring the vibrance down, it makes the colors less bright. And saturation is the amount of color in each pixel. So if you bring the saturation up, it's going to make the colors more colorful. If you bring it down, it's going to make it, black and white, grayscale. So the target adjustment tool is a pretty cool tool. So basically, you can click on a portion of the screen and it adjusts that target. So if you click in the highlights right here, I'm going to bring the highlights up. If you click in the shadows, it messes with just the shadows. So you can actually mess with the photo just by clicking and dragging with this tool. It's a pretty cool tool. I don't use it too often, but it's definitely cool. This is your crop tool, your color sampler tool, and your white balance tool. So the white balance tool, basically if you have a pure gray in your photo, you can just click it and it should white balance it automatically for you. I don't have a pure gray right here. I don't know what color that was. Definitely not pure gray. But yeah, so I'm just going to adjust my white balance on its own. The next tool I'm showing you is adjustment brush. Now the adjustment brush is in my opinion, I think it's great for if you're editing people's faces. You put it right on their face and you can adjust just what's in their face. So you can change the size of the brush, but basically it only adjusts what is in that circle, and it has a nice little feather on it. So if you put it on someone's face, it's great to just adjust their face. So that's a great tool for that. For this, it doesn't really help, so I'm just going to delete that. But yeah, I accidentally hit enter and opened it in Photoshop, but that's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close out of Photoshop, close out of the tab here, and don't save. Now, you think all my progress is lost, I just messed up. No, when you open a file in Camera Raw, as soon as you make one change, it creates a new file, an XMP file, and it saves all that data. So all of the stuff that I just did is still here, even though I didn't save anything. It's pretty great. So you can always come back to it later. You can always change it again. It's pretty awesome. All right, so next tab is your tonal curve. Basically, your basic tonal curve. Give a little bit of contrast here. And then you can change the channels from RGB to just red, just green, just blue. But I have it set to RGB right now. I'm just going to mess a little bit with that. And now you have your detail panel. Now you have your sharpening and your noise reduction. So if we zoom in here, notice there's a lot of noise. If we bring that luminance up a little bit, it does soften up your image, so you don't want to go all the way with it. But it does get rid of that noise, blends it a little bit together, bring down the sharpening a little bit, just to make it a little bit clearer. Get rid of some more noise, and I mean, looks pretty good there. Alright, so now we're going to go over to our HSL and Grayscale tab. So basically it's hue, saturation, luminance, and here you can change the hue of any color in here. So you can just drag and, like, if you want to make the reds more red, you want to make the oranges more red or more orange, you can make the blues more purple or light blue. It's a pretty cool tool. I really like doing this if you're trying to do some interesting color schemes. You can really adjust the color pretty easily with these tabs, and it makes it look great. Now the saturation tab, this is an awesome tab too. If you ever see a picture with all the saturation, it's all gray except for one color, this is a really great place to do that. It's really simple. If you have blue in your frame that you want to be the only thing there, you turn down the saturation, everything but the blue, and now everything that's blue in the frame is going to be blue, but everything else is black and white. And notice when I turn it up a little bit, you notice that like everything else is starting to turn blue. That's because there are blues in those other colors. You just can't really see them too well. But there were blues there. So if you wanted to, you could open that up in Photoshop after you turn up the blues and just mask out the parts that you don't want to be blue. But yeah, it's a cool place to do that. Split toning basically changes the hue of either the highlights or the shadows. Then you have your balance in the middle there that'll if you turn the hue up on both, it'll like kind of clear it out and balance it up a little bit. But I rarely use this tool. I don't really. The only reason why you would use this, I think, is if there was like, if your shadows were not completely black, you could change them back to black. Yeah. So this is your lens corrections tool. Basically, if you're using a wide lens, or you can use this tool to make it so there's no bubble. I'm using a 28mm lens, so there's a slight bend in the sides. So you notice when I clicked it on, it did change a little bit. So you see how on the edges it bubbles it out, so it's like more straight rather than what it looked like before. So see how there it goes, it straightens it out on the edges. So it's a pretty functional tool right there. Definitely helps. And then you can also like change the amount of distortion, and so I'm going to just play with this a little bit, make it exactly what I want. Yeah, the vignetting, it changes the edges a little bit, not too much, but it's a really good tool to fix the distortion of the lenses. And now I'm just going to re-straighten my picture because it did seem to mess with that a little bit. Let's change that. Now dehaze is a great new function of Photoshop here. It greatly increases the contrast when you turn it up, but it makes your photos super crisp, super clear. And when you turn that up, I'm going to go back, I'm going to bring up the shadows a little bit and bring the clarity down a little bit, because it does make your photos really dark, but it does crisp them up and make them nice and sharp and like clean. Then you have your grain, which I would never put grain in my photo. I don't know why you would. I guess it's the style. But yeah, you can change all that. If you really wanted to put grain in your photo, you got a little tab for that. And then we have a little vignette. Super easy vignette to put on your photos. If you just want to add a vignette, you just come in here and go to FX, a vignette, and it's just super simple and easy to put one on there. You can change all the midpoint, which makes it, yeah, feathering. Got everything in here. It's pretty awesome. I'm just going to add a little vignette, not too much. And the highlights are for when you have your vignette white instead of black. This tab is for your camera's color space. So if you notice that your camera's colors are off a little bit, you can come in here and change the hue and the saturation of those particular colors. If you notice that your camera makes reds look a little bit more magenta-y or your greens look a little bit more yellowy, you can come in here and change that for the whole photo, all of the primaries. Instead of going into your hue and saturation and changing it a little bit, you can come in here and it really affects the color of the three main colors, so red, green, and blue. I like the color space of my camera, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But yeah, that's what that's for. This is your presets tab if you want to make a preset, and your snapshots. You can make snapshots in here as well. So these tools on the bottom here are pretty awesome. So this tool basically shows you the before and after. So every time you click it, it gives you a new view. As you can see here, they don't even line up anymore because of that lens correction I put on there. Yeah, and then just gives you a bunch of different views where you can see the differences between what you've done and what you did. So this is a swap. So you can click this and it just swaps it from before to after. And that is a copy button. So this is your full screen mode here. Toggle full screen. And then down at the bottom we have save image. This saves it to either a JPEG or PNG. Open image opens it in Photoshop. Or you could just click done, and then if you click done, it doesn't save it as a PNG or open it in Photoshop, it just closes it out. And you have that XMP file saved, so if you ever want to open it back up, you just have to find your file and open it. So yeah, so I'm opening it in Photoshop. I'm going to tweak a little bit more in Photoshop, but other than that, that is Camera Raw in a nutshell. Pretty quick rundown of all the features and basic features of Camera Raw. Ready to dive in there and mess around. All right, have a good one.